Hello, this is video 8 in a series on Master Server Toolkit for Unity. This is going to cover creating a game manager and supporting game types for um, the basic rooms and lobbies that we've been working on in this video series. Now, I have my uh, master server and spawner running in the background, and I have uh, two clients up, and I'm just going to show what at the end of this video what's going on, what you're going to see in it, what you're going to get in these, like the source code that I'm going to show later. So I'm going to sign in on both of these and click lobbies list, create new lobby. Um, and on this second field, there's this game type drop down, survival, 2 versus 2, 1 versus 1. I'm just going to select the 2 versus 2 game type and click start lobby. And then I'm going to search for this lobby in this other client. And here is my 2 versus 2 lobby. I'm going to join it. And as you can see, we have this team column, and it's already auto balancing the teams for us, team A and team B. On the left, we see the host is on team A, and team B, the client, is on team B. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and ready up and then kick off the game. Okay, so what we have here is the team in little square brackets on the left of the player name, and the player name here is just the guest auto-generated username. Uh, you, in reality, you'd probably have their actual player name, obviously, here. So this is just to indicate, help us give visual cues of who this player is and what team they're on. Um, for this demonstration, and I'm just going to go ahead and just fire some projectiles here. And as you can see on the top left hand of the screens here, the health, on the right hand screen, there's been no health taken from the team member that's been firing. On the left hand screen, the one taking damage only has 4 health points left, and then 2, and then 1. Now, as you can see, a, uh, a your team won and a your team lost, and then the illustrious die effect coming through with the spiky ball or whatever that the player that died had. So anyway, that's the gist of what what I have so far to show, and really, there's a lot going on in there from really the rather simple demonstration that I've just shown. So I'm going to go ahead and close these out. And I think I still have, yes, my master. I'll close that out as well. Now I want to show that all the code is out on my GitHub uh, at this page here. jholland918 mst demo 1. It's currently in master, but if you look at branches, you'll see also like a mst7 underscore game types, which is the branch that I use to develop this feature. And if you go back, you'll see the README. I kind of tracked, did kind of quick and dirty job tracking my steps to take this, uh, to get this feature developed. Some of it might be, looks like I have an old YouTube video that I used for the health text. I'll show the correct one in this video that I actually used. Rather than going from the initial state of this project and then painstakingly showing step by step what I did, I think networking is a rather advanced topic, and I think the you all viewing this, hopefully you're not just a beginner. Hopefully you're an experienced developer that can dig into source code and figure some stuff out. And hopefully you're watching this just to kind of see, um, how somebody else might have done this, and you have the wherewithal to go in and check source code on in GitHub and see what you might want to do with your own project. So I'm not going to take hours long going step by step to show all this stuff. What I will do though is I will go through the uh, the documentation that I put down here and show you in the editor these different scripts and how these things kind of hang together, um, to give you the rationale on what I did, so that way you can have a bit more context when you're looking at the code. Okay. So, having said that, let's get started. So the first thing I did was, I'm not new to development in general. I'm not, and I'm still just a hobbyist game developer, bedroom game developer or whatever. But I am new to Master Server Toolkit. I am new to Fishnet. So the stuff that I'm showing you is just what I've figured out so far. It might not be the best. Probably already said that. But anyway, take it for what it is. So my first thing was I needed to figure out, hey, uh, how do we shoot a projectile using fishnet? So, and that gave me this official documentation Google search result, which was projectiles. And now, if you go and read through this document, you'll see various code snippets here, and then an explanation on what these do. And I ended up just using these. I put these, I had to actually wire it up and create the relevant objects that they needed to get it working. And I'll show you what I did to actually wire them up and complete these. So if you look at what assets app script, uh, and then character, you'll see a player character shoot, and then a character predicted projectile. Now these are the two scripts that I ended up creating to implement projectiles. Now I will open up the player character shoot, and I'll show you the stuff that came from the documentation, and then the new logic that I added to actually connect it to this game itself. All right, so player character shoot. I think I flagged this off. Maybe I flagged it off with what? Maybe I didn't. Well, um, okay, so what I added that's new is basically this time manager on tick. Now, what this does is it will check to see if the player um, if the player clicked the left mouse button. And we set this attack queue to true if they clicked it on update or whatever. So if I click Shift F12, you'll see that, okay, on update, um, if they if the left mouse button was clicked when we're setting that to true, and then if it is true, we're immediately setting it to false again, and then wiring up that or making that call out to the client fire method, which comes from that code that I copied from the documentation. Um, and I think that's really all I did to wire that up. Now, in that documentation, there's references to what a shoot logic would be, but then there's also the predicted projectile. Now, that predicted projectile, that is out here under the scripts character folder. Now, on this, I believe, what did I do here? Did I need to do anything special? I don't think I did. Oh yeah, here's a reference to my collisions not working. Um, so yeah, I was not able to get this collision to work with my original setup or with the previous game until I added a rigid body onto something, or else these collisions aren't working. It's been a while since I've messed around with Unity. I forgot that. But anyway, um, I ended up adding a rigid body on the um, player prefab body itself rather than the projectile. And looking around in Fishnet's Discord, it seems like that might not be the best idea, but hey, I'm not trying to build your game for you. You'll need to figure that out on your own. All I wanted to do is to get the collision event working so that way I can get the plumbing done for the actual player health to trigger updates and stuff like that. So um, you know you can fix this to your liking. But anyway, the other thing that I did is to wire this up is in the on collision enter. There's the instead of the player ship, I'm referencing I'm grabbing the player character vitals um, component off the prefab, and that's how I'm having it take damage. And here I'm just doing a hard-coded 2 damage points off of it. And then if you go in there, you'll see that what I'm doing here for how it's taking damage. And here I put in a region of what I've edited in the player vitals, player character vitals script. Is all it is the initial health of the character and then the take damage method, and then finally we notify, hey, I died, and that's not something that's custom. It's already in that player character vital script. Um, so what's next? Yeah, so I did have to attach these things to various and sundry objects. So first thing is, if you take a look at the prefabs, is app prefabs player character. So if I open it, well, if I highlight it here, you'll see that I ended up attaching a couple things. Like in the previous uh, state of this repository, the player character vitals was not attached. I attached it, and then also attached the player character shoot script. In addition to that, I needed to give it a bullet uh, projectile, but that bullet projectile did not exist. I had to create it myself, so that bullet projectile, here's what it looks like. It's just a plain old sphere, and its transform is 333 or point 0.3 for scale. Uh, Changed it to orange material. Um, didn't really change a whole lot. What else? Yeah, of course, attach the, I attached the predicted projectile script onto it, obviously. But yeah, once I created that, I needed to attach it to the player character uh, shoot script. So that way, whenever we shoot, we're spawning that projectile. Now, that illustrious die effect, uh, that's attached here, as you can see on the vitals. So that die effect, all that is well, let's open it. Yeah, that's just a bunch of little sticks. So anyhow, just a bunch of little orange sticks that are rotated to show that, hey, this it's something happened to the character, whatever. So yeah, added that die effect, dragged it onto this little die effect prefab, added the player health of 10, character controller that's coming from this FPS character. But yeah, that is it for the player um, character. And I think, well, let's see, what else did we do? What else did we do? Okay, yeah. Next thing is um, when I noticed something weird. Now, if you're familiar with Fishnet or MST, this might be something that you already know about. But whenever I would edit the first person character prefab, I would notice that a couple references got uh, I guess corrupted or messed up. And those references, excuse me, those references are, say, if you go to um, assets app data, demo single prefab uh, objects, there's this list of spawnable prefabs. Now, whenever I would edit the FPS character prefab and save, this would get become invalid, and I would have to go back and drag that FPS character back onto this uh, demo single prefab object. In addition to that, I would need to go to the room scene, and in that room scene, I'll open that up. Yeah, so on that room scene, if you go to the select player spawner in the hierarchy, and you'll see the player spawner component spawns item. You expand that. It's not that. Never mind. It's the player prefab. This would need to be reset because it would become invalid after I would update the player character prefab. Same goes for the bullet too. I'd have to go and update that bullet reference, prefab reference whenever the bullet prefab got updated. So yeah, just know that that's a thing um, for some reason. What else? So yeah, player health. That was added to the prefab. Actually, no, the player health was added to the room scene. So if you go to the room scene, which is here, I already have it open. We have this room scene with the master canvas. Expand that room HUD view. So on this room HUD view, what I did was I just added this text mesh pro um, item here, and that has the top left anchor, and here's the values if you need to copy them down. Did I do anything else special? Anyhow, here's what the rect transform looks like. I'll collapse that. And here's what the actual text mesh pro component looks like if you want to copy it exactly, or if you're just going to clone it, who cares, right? um, what else? So that's the player health. What else do we have here? So oh yeah, they I know I referenced it earlier, but in the prefabs, uh, first person character, if I open it, you'll see here, if I select body, you'll see where I put the rigid body on there to get those collisions working. And again, I think that's, um, I've heard some, I've seen some things on the Fishnet Discord about rigid bodies and how they affect the networking, and some people's having trouble with it. Maybe they don't know how to use it. I don't know. I haven't used it that much, so I don't know what all the caveats there are around that, right? So what I've done though, I just want to say I also froze the position and rotation, so that way if, if you don't do this and you start the game, the capsule's just going to like fall over because of gravity or whatever, right? Physics. So I just froze that. What else? Okay, so talked about the prefab, talked about the room HUD view, adding the health. Oh, one other thing about the room HUD view, like so on that room, um, if I open that back up, so under master canvas room HUD view, I noticed that whenever I was going to edit it, that script was, whenever I clicked on it, it was referencing the script under Master Server Toolkit. I needed to fix that reference. So, fix that reference however you see fit. But yeah, it needs to, in my mind, it needs to be living under your app scripts, not under Master Server Toolkit when you go to edit it. So that way, any upgrades to Master Server Toolkit are not going to affect your logic. So you want to make sure your changes are living inside your own source that you know about. Um, so what's next? Room HUD view. Talked about that. So yeah, the health text. In room HUD view. So the health text. This I did edit the room HUD view script, and I added the player health text as a property to reference. So down here you'll see um, this health text property, and I just drug it down there to create the reference. And what else? Okay, so moving on, let's talk about the game manager and the game management scripts and all that, because that was uh, kind of a bigger deal. What I did is I created a root game manager game object, and I attached um, network object, fishnet network object, and my game manager script. Now this game manager script is really the main uh, the primary thing that's going to track the different game types, track the different uh, times that players are joining the lobby, characters are getting spawned, and lobby info getting uh, I guess tracked as well with these players. So if you take a look at the room server, I think it's the room server. Yeah, so I'm going to show there are a few events on the room server, and you'll see that like on before room register, you'll see that I've added handlers to the game manager, so that way the game manager class can capture these different events for like players joining and exiting the room, so that way we can track them. So yeah, just add some references there and make them reference the correct um, event handlers. Um, so in Game Manager, if I open that up, let's see what that looks like. Okay. So the idea here is we have this primary game manager, but then, um, and I'll collapse everything that's not game manager. So I created a game management namespace under app scripts game management. And in there is this primary game manager class. And what this uh, what this does is it'll coordinate and it'll figure out, okay, what kind of game are we playing here? Is it two versus two? Is it survival? Is it one versus one? Or whatever. And then when it figures that out, it's going to activate the different handler logic for these different game types. So the game manager uh, on awake, of course, it's going to start listening to the player character events, and so that way it can track those. But the more interesting piece here is how it's deciding what game to what game logic to use. And so what we're doing to figure that out is um, when the room when the room server on room registered happens event, we get this little room controller object. Now that room controller, uh, that's going to help us. You know what? Hey, you know what? That's not relevant. But once the room controller is not relevant. Slept since I implemented this. But yeah, this is on room registered is still the relevant um, method that does the whole figuring out which handler to use. So what's going to happen is on room registered. Once that happens, we go, okay, so let's get the lobby info. MST server lobbies get lobby info using the current lobby ID. And so that's going to return this lobby data packet back to us. And that is going to actually be the thing that lets us figure out what teams, is this a team game? Um, and really, is this a team game? All I'm doing if I F12 into here is I have a hard-coded little, I only have one team game type, which is 2 versus 2. And it's based on the lobby properties factory ID. Okay. So yeah, if it's 2 versus 2, then it's a team game. If not, it's not. But yeah, it's figuring out if it's a team game or not here in this on room registered. But in addition to that, it's adding, it's getting all the lobby member info, and the lobby members, those are kind of in. Unless there's a better place to find this, let me know. But the only place I found where a player has an assigned team on them is this lobby info members. So that's why I'm tracking that. So I'm taking these lobby members and I'm adding them to this little player registrations collection. So I'm just grabbing all these lobby members and adding them to this collection here for later use. And then finally, what I'm doing is, okay, well, let's grab that lobby factory, which that lobby factory is an argument that gets passed to the room executable, room exe, whenever it gets spawned. And that lobby factory is going to be the ID of the game of the actual game that we're interested in playing here. So that lobby factory ID is going to either be survival, 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, and this is driven. This data is driven by that drop down select box in the GUI when you go to create a lobby. And so whenever it's of survival, well, I'm instantiating the survival handler. Uh, and if it's 1 versus 1, I'm instantiating the 1 versus 1 handler. If it's 2 versus 2, well, 2 versus 2 handler. And these handlers are just subclasses of this base game handler here. And this base game handler, I'm just um, instantiating that in awake to give some default behavior until we go and actually give the real behavior once we figure out what game type we're playing. So the interesting thing about this game handler is what I'm doing is um, whenever a character dies, I'm passing that through to the game handler, current whatever game handler we have instantiated at the time. I'm passing that through to the on character die method. And then same thing for on character alive, passing that through. Um, Might be a better way to do that. If there is, let me know. I'd love it. So what else? What else are we doing here? I think that covers the figuring out what game type that we want to play whenever we start this. So I'm going to collapse this room server registered. Here's some pretty boring things. I'm just adding these different room players. Whenever the player joins the room, I'm adding that to my player registration collection. Whenever they leave it, I'm removing them. Whenever a player character is spawned or destroyed, well, I'm adding it or removing it from my player registrations collection. And I'll go over that here shortly. Um, what else? Uh, you'll notice that I moved my match timer stop game logic or whatever to the game manager, and I'm calling this stop game method from the actual handler classes. Whenever they decide it's time to stop the game, they'll stop that. They'll call this game stop method. Well, actually, it's indirectly called. It's called using this stop game after delay, which is called on the on game over, but I'll show that in more detail in a little while. And really, why not now? I'll just go ahead and do that now. So I'll open up the survival handler. So the survival handler, all it's doing is it's interested is whenever a character dies, it will go and say, hey, let's add whatever character died to the dead characters list. And then let's just count how many of characters are alive. If there's only one, well, that's the last man standing or woman standing. Let's trigger the game over logic or get the results and then pass it into the game over logic in the game manager. So yeah, last man or woman standing, whatever. Um, and then we go and we figure out who actually won, and we add that to a player results collection, which this player results is just like all the fishnet owner IDs, and then the text that we want to display in the user's HUD is you won or you lost, and that player results just gets added to this game results object in the on game over um, method. So if I F12 into the on game over, you'll see that we're just going, okay, well, it's RPC notify game results. And then we're going to go ahead and kick off, hey, we're going to stop the game after 5 seconds. And that should give them a little bit of time to see what the results are before it goes back to the lobby. Um, and that on game results really is just an event that the HUD is going to listen to. So if I do a Shift F12 on it, we'll see what happens in there. So I'll navigate over there. So we have this room HUD view again, and it's awake is subscribing to the game on game results method, and it gets handled by grabbing those results and then checking, hey, um, let's let's see if if the player results contains my character, which it should. I'd be surprised if it didn't, but whatever. Just checking, and then if it is, well, then let's go ahead and grab the text from that results and put that into the game results text on the HUD, and that's how that gets. That's how that plumbing works. What else? The game names. Now, the game name, like the player names and that kind of thing. Again, I'm a beginner at Fishnet. I just Googled and I found this tutorial by the author of Fishnet that goes over the player names. And what I did is grabbed, I just basically implemented it in here by adding where did I add that? That is in scripts, I believe. Yeah, so there's the player name tracker and the name displayer. Now the player name tracker, and I have the links to the YouTube videos up here, um, or whatever. Now the name displayer. So these two little guys are what's making sure that the player names are synced and updated. And I did do some change here. What did I do? Okay, so I did add um, like a set team method in here, if you notice. And this set team will make it to where that little team tag or flag gets added to that player name in the game itself. So, and this gets called from within the This is called within the actual game manager again. So after we get the lobby info, since the team name is in the lobby members, I just go and call this player name tracker set team. So what else? Player name, player team names. What else? Okay, I think the final thing really is the player registration. So the player registration is a convenience class that um, ties together the room player, which is whenever you are listening to that on player joined event from the room server object, it passes in a room player. Whenever the player prefab spawns and you listen to that player character spawn event, it gives you a player character. And then whenever the room like starts, we get the lobby members, and this tracks each lobby member. And so this player registration, it basically just ties all these together for us. So that way there's no confusion on what belongs, what character belongs to what room player or lobby member or whatever. Um, so if you're like, um, if you're trying to figure out what spawned character belongs to what player connection, well, one thing is this owner ID is the player character. Owner ID is actually the same thing as the room peer ID. These are the same thing. If you need to know like how those are tied together, but I have convenience methods here, so that way we don't have to go player character dot owner and all that. So same for the room player. These are just quality of life properties. And then finally, another quality of life property, which is getting the username from either the lobby member or the room player. And then finally, the last quality of life property on this player registration is the team. And like I said before, the team, from what I can tell, is only available on the lobby member data. Uh, so yeah, so I have this collection of player registrations that has these three objects, and it's basically being tracked inside this player registration collection, which has a base dictionary of players based on username and the player registration object, which I just went over. But then you'll also notice this IDs dictionary, which is a mapping between the owner ID or room peer ID and the username, because some of these objects will only have the username and some will only have the owner ID or the network ID, whatever. So that's what this is here for, to kind of bridge that gap. Um, but yeah, all these other ones are just basic add functions, and I kind of put, uh, lobby member data gets called first, and this gets called second, and you'll notice that I have a lot. It's very simple. I'm not trying to check to see, you know, if the player's dictionary has the username key already added, I'm because I know this gets called first. I know that it's not in there, so I'm not having a bunch of if thens in here. Now maybe if I plan on using player registration collection elsewhere and it's not guaranteed that this is going to happen in a certain specific order, then maybe it makes sense to have a bunch of if thens checking to see if the keys already exist or not, and then dealing with that. But I'm not. Okay. But yeah, just adding more maps here to make it easier to like make sense of which object relates to what again. Oh yeah, I commented out the actual remove because I'm not sure if I need these or not. Maybe I'll put an inactive flag on the registration. I don't know. I think that's it for this video. Anyhow,